Good afternoon and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining this webinar on talent attraction, titled ESG in Hong Kong, Market Updates and Latest Opportunities for Global Talent. I'm your host today, Herman. I'm from Invest Hong Kong. DHR Global is co-organizing this webinar with us. ESG is now a major theme in global economic development. There's no exception here in Hong Kong. Together with other ESG initiatives, our government has announced a Climate Action Plan 2050. Mainland China also has a goal to achieve carbon net zero by 2060. Hence, ESG talents have many opportunities and tremendous upside to develop their careers in this part of the world. Today, we have very qualified speakers to give you an update and talk about opportunities in the ESG field in Hong Kong. Let me introduce them to you. First, we have Ms. Caroline Edwards. She is the managing partner of DHR Global. Caroline works across the world for top emerging companies for their succession planning and team realignment. Caroline also has an extensive human resources background in identifying top executive talents and senior management roles for multinational companies. Then we have Mr. Yi-Sing Tan. Yi-Sing is the assurance partner at EY in Hong Kong. He has over 16 years of experience serving both listed and private companies in Hong Kong and Asia. His portfolio comprises conglomerates, MNCs, and SME clients with operations in mainland China and Asia Pacific. Currently, Yi-Sing leads the Climate Change and Sustainability Services team at EY, which assists clients in formulating their sustainability strategies. Lastly, we have Dr. Mark Watson, who is the Senior Managing Director and Head of ESG Advisory at Teneo. Mark has worked in the sustainability arena for over 25 years, having worked in professional services, government, industry, and international development. He was previously the Global Head of Sustainability for John Swire and Sons Limited. Before we start the panel discussion, I would like to invite Mr. Charles Ng, who is the Associate Director General at Invest Hong Kong, to give you a welcome remark. Charles, please.
Thank you, Herman. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening to all of you joining us from around the world. Thank you for your participation. I would like to thank our co-organizer, DHR Global, for working on this seminar with us, as well as the Association of Pacific Rim Universities, the Eurochamber, and the HKUST Business School for being the supporting organizations. Invest Hong Kong is a government department of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region that helps international and mainland companies set up and grow in and via our city. As a global financial center, an international innovation technology hub, a cultural platform where East meets West, high-quality talent is one of our biggest and most important needs. Hong Kong, as a leading and vibrant business capital in the heart of Asia, enables businesses here to tap into the vast opportunities offered by mainland China, in particular the affluent Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau, Greater Bay Area, with a population of 86 million people and a $2 trillion economy. And of course, this is just part of that. And we also are tapping into other markets in the region. In fact, 2 recent surveys show that the number of mainland and overseas companies, as well as the number of startups in Hong Kong, reached record levels in 2021, with over 9,000 companies and over 3,075 startups. These figures are loud and clear evidence that Hong Kong is an appealing destination for global talent and businesses. As my colleague Herman said in his opening remarks, ESG now is a major theme in global economic development, and the Hong Kong government is fully committed to enhance overall competitiveness and pursue sustainable development. As there is a growing global importance placed on sustainability, we seek to promote green finance and ESG finance, developing Hong Kong into a regional carbon trading center to support the development of green finance globally. The development of green and sustainable finance in Hong Kong offers promising prospects. By leveraging our advantages as an international financial center, we can facilitate matching between international capital on one hand and quality green projects on the other hand, contributing proactively to helping our country achieve its 2060 target in relation to carbon emission peak and carbon neutrality, as well as propelling Hong Kong towards our carbon neutrality target by 2050 and promoting green transformation of our economy. Now, since the launch of the government green bond program in 2018, a total of more than $7 billion equivalent of green bonds targeting global institutional investors has successfully been issued. Several important milestones have been achieved, including the issuance of a 30-year US dollar denominated green bond and a 20-year euro denominated green bond, and both of which are the first issuance among Asian governments and have established an important reference benchmark for the thriving development of the bond market in Hong Kong. These initiatives are solid proof of the Hong Kong market emerging as a green financial center. By developing the city into an international innovation and technology center to facilitate economic transformation, we will be expediting smart city developments to improve Hong Kong's competitiveness on a sustainable scale. We will facilitate extension application of digital technology in society through the digitalization of the government operations for better public services. We will also actively facilitate the development of digital infrastructures, enhancing the quality of life for Hong Kong people and enhancing our sustainable offerings. We also plan to take advantage of the development of the GBA to promote synergies and to integration of industry chains between Hong Kong and nearby cities. The overall development of the northern metropolis is based on sustainable development, where we aim to provide a livable, vibrant, and a high quality of life metropolitan area in the GBA, building a new highland for technological innovation and shifting to digital solutions. We estimate that in the next 15 to 20 years, the government's expenditure on various measures to combat climate change may reach $240 billion. The enormous spending to drive low carbon transformation will accelerate the development of green industries as well as green and sustainable finance in Hong Kong. As a result, private enterprise are expected to invest heavily in decarbonization. More technology companies with green solutions to solve climate change will rise and flourish. With Hong Kong's forward-thinking approaches and the government's ongoing efforts to develop green and sustainable finance, as well as smart city infrastructures and digitalization, I believe we are on the right path for Hong Kong to shine brighter. 2 weeks ago, the Hong Kong SAR government announced further relaxation of the quarantine rules for arrivals. The now new 0+ free quarantine arrangement will no doubt facilitate mainland and overseas talents to come to Hong Kong. That means no quarantine in the hotels. This is your perfect timing to start a rewarding and fulfilling career right here in Hong Kong. Our 3 distinguished panelists, Caroline, Isin, and Mark, are excellent examples of foreign talents who have successfully advanced a career here and become industry experts. They will share with you their unique insights on the latest development of ESG in Hong Kong, as well as the opportunities we offer. I hope you will enjoy today's webinar and are inspired to consider the opportunities Hong Kong has to offer. We look forward to meeting you all in person in this amazing city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charles. Okay, let's start the panel discussion. Now I would like to turn to Mark first. Mark, you have a long career in ESG and sustainability, being currently the head of ESG at Teneo and previously the group head of sustainability at Swire. Can you tell us the latest development in the ESG sector globally and in particular Hong Kong?
Herman, thank you very much indeed. Good afternoon, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for spending time with us today, and thank you to Invest Hong Kong for organising such a timely event, in my opinion. I could give you a very long-winded answer here that could take the entire session, I think, so I'll try and keep this fairly short. I think, look, in a nutshell, ESG has really come of age. There's no doubt that we've really moved ESG into the mainstream of business thinking. There's never been a better time, I think, to be working in this space, and there is so much going on that we need a kind of a coalition of all the talents, really, if we're going to tackle some of the biggest economic, environmental, and societal problems we now face, not just here in Hong Kong and in Asia Pacific, but also globally as well. I'm very fortunate that I work for an organization very much at the forefront of helping board level members, C-suite executives, CEOs and others to really tackle those kind of problems at scale and to work right across organizations, both here in Asia Pacific and globally as well. But I would say, in terms of drilling down some of the issues we're going to kind of see here, and I think, look, clearly climate change has become not just a primate and preeminent issue. It's become probably the #1 issue, I think, that is now in the ESG space. There is so much focus on the E of ESG, and that is really around, we hear a lot about companies talking about their trajectory towards net zero, how they're going to achieve the goals that were set at through the Paris Accord. And I think really for companies who have signed up to these commitments, it's about making sure that they have credible, concrete targets that are understood by their stakeholders, particularly by their investors, and of course by their employees. So I think helping companies to unpack, understand, and to plan a roadmap to how they decarbonize their business in the longer term out to 2030 and then 2050 and beyond is really probably the #1 issue that companies are facing and that we're seeing. I think also that it's true to say that ESG in the markets and around disclosure has become a lot more both complicated but also much more mainstream. I think it's readily understood that ESG is now something that the markets take very seriously. When analysts are looking to invest in how they score and grade companies, they will look at ESG criteria. That is clearly something that is unfolding and developing, and I think we're a long way off of finding a perfect solution to that. But there's so much churn in the market, so much aggregation, so much data out there. I think also, it's a question of helping the markets understand what is material and what to focus on. And we could have an entire session this afternoon just talking about that. I think also, if I look at what's going on globally, and I think, just before the session, we were talking a little bit about the issues around energy. I think, if we think about the geopolitical environment that we currently find ourselves in, ESG, I think, has become even more pressing, even more mainstream than perhaps it was pre-COVID. So I think that is something that, again, companies are juggling with so many different priorities, but having a strong ESG strategy, having a strong stance in ESG, having a narrative that everyone can understand and buy into will help companies to really navigate through that. And then lastly, let's not leave out government and regulation. There is a swathe of increasing regulatory requirements, complexities, reporting frameworks, etc. And companies are having to navigate through that as well to understand what regulation means and how they deal with that ongoing regulation. We could talk a lot about the different issues around biodiversity, which is an emerging issue. The growth of sustainable finance. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit later in this session. DE&I, diversity, equity and inclusion. There are so many different facets to ESG and sustainability that I think it would be very hard for me to give you a very, very long-winded answer. So I'm going to stop there, but I hope that gives you a little insight into what I'm seeing and where I think we're heading at the moment.
Thank you very much, Mark. We should definitely have another session to talk about a bit more. My another question to you is, you have been in Hong Kong for a long time and an expert in this field. I know that you are a talent originally from the UK. What made you stay in Hong Kong and continue to develop your career here? Do you see a lot of opportunities in the ESG field in Hong Kong?
Look, I've been very, very fortunate that I think, in life sometimes there is a little bit of luck and a bit of timing. But I think, before I worked in Hong Kong, I worked in the Chinese mainland and worked inside the government there and was running a large environmentally linked poverty program for the government of the PRC. So I already had a very strong understanding and connection with Hong Kong and the greater region. But I think, for me, it was very, very clear that there was going to be such growth, that there was going to be such opportunity, and that Hong Kong, given its strategic position with the Chinese mainland, was going to be very much at the forefront of that. And I think the fundamentals remain the same. I think you mentioned about the GBA, for example. Hong Kong is ideally positioned and uniquely positioned to take advantage of that. I was also very fortunate that I was going to work for a company. I went to work for Cathay Pacific at a time when aviation and climate change and the environmental impact of aviation was increasingly pressing. So I think it was a succession of events, and also, if I'm honest with you, a conscious decision to move to Hong Kong. And that, as you said, that was 15 years ago. And like many expats, I probably never intended to stay for 15 years, but family and everything else came along as well. So it wasn't just a professional thing as well. It was very much personal. But I think if I think about what makes Hong Kong so special, one of the things in terms of business is access. The kind of people, the kind of companies, the connections that one makes in Hong Kong are unique and unparalleled. I am absolutely convinced that my career would never have developed as well as it has had I remained in the UK. I genuinely believe that. Hong Kong has been, frankly, the best thing that I ever did. And I would implore anybody in this space who's looking to come and develop a career in ESG or sustainability to seriously consider working and living in Hong Kong. It's a fantastic place to be.
Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you for your kind word. I'm very happy that you have done well in Hong Kong. Now, another gentleman, Yi Xin, you are another ESG expert in Hong Kong. And Hong Kong government has a goal to achieve net zero carbon emission by 2050. And ESG awareness and initiatives have increased. Do you think Hong Kong can become a ESG hub and plays an important role in the ESG and sustainability development in the region? Well, basically is to replicate our success in being an international financial center and regional headquarters of many multinational companies.
Thank you, Herman. That's actually a very good question. As we've discussed earlier, I think we've been very busy this week. We just came, Mark and myself, we just finished a Rethink Hong Kong event. Like you mentioned, Hong Kong status as an international financial center is a given. But given the vast amount of finance talents and resources we actually possess, it's actually not difficult for Hong Kong to become a green finance hub within the region itself. As you may have heard from Charles' opening address, the government has reiterated its support for Hong Kong to develop into a green finance center within the GBA itself, and specifically mentioned in the CE's 2021 policy address that the Hong Kong government will work to strengthen and develop into a green finance center within the GBA. And by supporting Hong Kong EX into promoting and cooperation with the Guangzhou Futures Exchange in relation to carbon emissions trading. So relevant organizations have also been established, including the Green and Sustainable Finance Cross-Agencies Steering Group, to accelerate the growth of green and sustainable finance and to support the government's climate strategies. In addition, the Hong Kong government, as mentioned also by Charles, has also launched the retail green bonds earlier this year. Okay, speaking of Green Finance Hub, I'm sure people will compare Hong Kong to Singapore, where I'm from. Indeed, Singapore has outperformed Hong Kong from 2019 to 2020 in terms of green bond issuance amount. So no denying Singapore will continue to be a strong competitor of Hong Kong, but we're seeing some gradual changes happening starting from this year. So the amount of green bond issuance in Hong Kong has actually surpassed Singapore in the first half of 2021, amounting to a total amount of 3.8 billion. With the support of the government itself, Hong Kong can leverage its unique role and green finance capabilities within the GBA itself. I believe we can continue to work closely with the other cities within the GBA to channel capital towards more green and sustainable projects within the Guangdong province, as well as to act as a leader to develop innovative green finance solutions, such as green building projects, as well as the Carbon Connect. Aside from becoming a green finance hub, Hong Kong is also capable of being an ESG hub, with ESG disclosure so much more mature currently as compared to companies within the Guangdong province. Regulatory bodies such as the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, the HKMA, have been tightening its requirements for ESG and climate-related disclosures to keep up with key international sustainability trends. Examples such as the TCFD alignment, which is required by 2025. So the city is already equipped with relevant talents that are knowledgeable and experienced from this listed company's mandatory reporting regime. So with Hong Kong government also planning to offer cash grants and easier immigration paths to lure ESG talents, we do expect the ESG talent pool to continue to expand organically as well. So accounting firms such as EY and consulting firms, law firms are all embracing ESG and offering various ESG related services. So for EY, the climate change and sustainability team provides services such as assisting companies with ESG reporting, embedding ESG elements within the company strategy, and we do think that we're in the leading position, not just to promote sustainability within the city itself, but in the forefront of ESG reporting as well as development within the GBA region.
Thank you, Yi-Sing. But then what qualifications or background do you think that an ESG expert should possess? And are they available in Hong Kong?
ESG is actually a very, very broad topic. It covers so many disciplines and professions requiring different expertise and experience. Some of the examples include reporting, like I mentioned many times, sustainable finance, carbon management, climate risk, and each actually requires different expertise. For example, when it comes to sustainable finance, we would require talents which have experience with finance itself. Apart from that, other aspects such as scenario analysis as well as carbon management, we will require professionals from an environmental science or engineering background. So you can see that actually ESG is multidisciplinary profession which requires cross-disciplinary expertise. Of course, back to the first point that I've mentioned. So given that Hong Kong is actually an international finance center, ESG talent should familiarize themselves with the relevant financial know-how, while financial experts should also equip themselves with specific ESG skill sets. I truly believe at the end of the day, ESG is going to be embedded in all the different industries, and everybody should have a basic knowledge about ESG itself. There are actually many professional qualifications out there offered by, let's say, the CFA Institute. But apart from required knowledge, I think more importantly is for practitioners to actually be willing to learn and be truly invested into sustainability itself. Like what Mark has mentioned earlier, ESG is actually an industry that's very fast changing. There are many new standards, new requirements that will continue to emerge, converge, as well as evolve. So everybody within this field itself will have to keep learning to stay on top of it. So at EY, we also realized that we do have to train our own talents. So we've been on top of our regular trainings on ESG disclosures as well as capital markets requirements. We've also encouraged our colleagues to go for our EY Sustainability Badges, which is an innovative program where we encourage our colleagues to learn more about sustainability on topics such as climate change, creating long-term value, circular economy. We've also partnered with Holt International Business School to launch EY Masters in Sustainability for everybody within the firm, and hope that they can expand their sustainability and climate literacy and translate these skill sets into a new and innovative service for clients around the globe.
Thank you. This is a very good effort of EY to provide more training to your staff and also other interested people as well. Thank you very much. Caroline, you are a recruitment expert. What do you see about the supply and demand condition of ESG talent in Hong Kong?
Thank you, Herman. And I think Mark covered what is driving the requirements of ESG and sustainability. Ethan talked about Hong Kong becoming a hub, but obviously the question then is, where are we going to find the people to actually fill these roles? And actually, we recently completed some research, which was across the region, and really highlighted that how Asia is lagging behind both the USA and Europe in ESG skills. And as both Mark and Ethan talked about, I mean, Hong Kong is a global financial center, and we've seen demand for ESG skills grow with the focus initially on stronger green financial sector. But we're seeing that change now to the emphasis on corporate governance and reporting, which obviously Mark highlighted as well. However, these principles are now being incorporated across other sectors. So it's not finance driven originally, but other sectors are really expanding rapidly and into a lot of ESG corporate initiatives, putting even more pressure on the ESG talent supply and demand. This is particularly so as Ethan talked about the Hong Kong Stock Exchange and corporate governance and disclosures, and so we're seeing listed companies all paying more attention to the efforts that they need to really build their ESG capabilities. So we're also seeing SMEs move to embrace ESG to ensure that they attract top talent and are not left behind. And we also mentioned previously about Hong Kong becoming more and more integrated into the Greater Bay Area. So the demand for ESG talent will increase, which will stretch the talent pool further. So increasing terms of supply and demand. So I think there's pressure from a lot of different areas. So to summarize, we see a real demand now right across the board, and this is a real opportunity for professionals to come to the city. As I think Mark mentioned and Ethan mentioned, this is really the time that Hong Kong is building ESG capabilities, and the need is here for talent. And I think Charles mentioned at the beginning, with a greater ability to travel to Hong Kong, things are only going to continue to attract more and more international talent. So this is an area for anyone who's looking for opportunities that is growing very quickly in Hong Kong.
Thank you very much. But in terms of seniority of the job openings in this field in Hong Kong, are they mainly middle management roles, or actually vacancies appear in all levels?
Well, we've seen roles primarily for senior executives, particularly the Chief Sustainability Officer. And this is obviously starting at the top, but often with a mandate to build out teams. So this is resulting in a trickle-down effect. So there are opportunities at all levels. So I think this is certainly a career opportunity and an area for individuals to develop and grow into. And there's the benefit of this for those who are just coming into ESG and who have the passion and drive to make a difference. The opportunity to learn from experienced leaders and build a strong technical skills base for them to grow their own careers. This is a really, starting from grassroots level. So I think all levels, not just middle level, but senior level and junior level organizations are building and growing. The question for organizations cross industry is really when they're looking at ESG and sustainability within the organization, is what does ESG look like for your organization, and what are your aims and goals, basically. And sort of, I think, just to have a really short answer to that question, there are three ways, basically, to bring in talent. Bringing in senior level from overseas, internal, so leveraging inbuilt expertise in your organization, and helping and bringing them to Hong Kong to share those skills, or looking at external talent and bringing in someone from outside, looking internally for people from who demonstrate a real aptitude and a passion, those who are driven by a sense of purpose. I think this is one of the things that Mark talked about as well. There was a sense of having that sense of purpose and wanting to do something to improve sustainability. So upskilling internal talent is one way to do that. And Isin talked about providing support for this. And we're looking at HKMA have already established an ESG executive diploma. So, education is also supporting this initiative in Hong Kong. So fresh graduates, great opportunity to develop their career. HKUST, who's one of the joint sponsors, as well as HKU already have undergraduate and master's programs. So basics are there, but the individuals need development. So even those grassroots level, there's opportunities for everyone. We're seeing that there's opportunities for everyone. So the talent pool will not come from just one source, but from all three, depending on the company's needs. And it's quite a long answer. Sorry, I said it was going to be a short answer, but I think there's three opportunities for people to join organizations or be part of the ESG program.
Thank you very much. I have a question for all of you, and it is something a bit more general. I know that you are all overseas talents who have been in Hong Kong for a long time, probably over a decade or maybe even longer. And I'm sure that there's something special here that made you stay in Hong Kong. Would you mind to share with us? And what do you found that our city is more attractive to you? Maybe I'll start from Mark first again.
Well, I think I sort of partly answered that in the last question, in a sense, around the sense of opportunity, the engagement, the proximity of business, the ease of access, and I think that scope for working in partnership, for collaboration, I think all of those things are really important. I just wanted to sort of just take this opportunity though to pick up on some comments that Caroline made in the last point, because I think it's really important to build on this. She was saying about what organizations define around ESG, but I think one of the things that's really important here is we talked a little bit about the professional qualifications around sustainability and ESG, but it's more than that. It's more than that. It's about having the right skill set, the right aptitude. It's about thinking strategically. It's about being able to problem solve. It's about working in organizations across the piece. It's about advocacy. It's about working with others and listening and being empathetic and having high EQ just as much as having high IQ. I think also communications are really important. What I see is, frankly, I see a lot of very, very technically gifted people who are able to unpack and communicate very technical issues into straightforward concepts that business leaders need to have. So I would just say that actually, when we're thinking about the kind of people we want to attract and where we're looking to get people, we also need to encourage people to think about and to really work on those areas in their current roles, or whether at university or whatever they're doing. To me, those are the things that I look for when I'm trying to recruit someone. But sorry to sort of go back, but I think I did answer that previous question for you. So let the other guys have a go at that one.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark. Maybe, oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to actually support exactly what Mark said, because in the research that we conducted, those are exactly the skills and attributes that everyone is looking for in terms of ESG, when they're looking at ESG capabilities.
And I haven't seen the research.
Sorry?
And I haven't seen the research.
Did you have
good to know we're on the same page.
Yes, totally, absolutely. This is everything totally reflective. And I don't know, Herman, do you want me to talk about now why I came to Hong Kong?
No, I mean, maybe I turn to Yi Xin as you know, people always compare Hong Kong and Singapore. Maybe you can talk about how you feel being a Singaporean in Hong Kong.
I can answer. Part of the reason is the food, but at the same time, how vibrant and resilient the city is. Hong Kong has gone through quite a fair bit over the past few years, but I think we're going to bounce back stronger. At the same time, I think I've already compared Singapore as well as Hong Kong. I would say that Hong Kong has an advantage because we're part of a very important city within the GBA itself, and that is a development which we are all hoping that really takes off. As compared to Singapore, I think there's a lot of green finance that can be really deployed into very big green projects within the Guangdong province itself. So that is definitely why I'm still staying put within Hong Kong.
Thank you very much. Okay, I think I have a question from the audience. But it's probably more I will ask for Caroline and Yi Xin view, because I think Mark has already said it about what he's looking for a candidate in ESG field. But so I'll turn to you and I'll turn to Yi Xin and Caroline. So I mean, the question is, would you please share some tips on how to get a job and work in Hong Kong in the ESG field, and how to impress the employer during the interview? So maybe Caroline first.
Thank you, Herman. And again, I think going back, and we talked about this earlier, from our recent research, we looked at 100,000 roles requiring ESG and sustainability related skills, and approximately 20% of the vacancies came from Asia. So there's a significant number of opportunities for people within Asia, and they were at different levels. So they not all coming in at very senior or middle or grassroots level. And so with the world reconnecting, there's a real opportunity for talent with solid experience and technical skills, plus obviously the soft skills that Mark talked about a little earlier, and that can demonstrate how they can contribute to an organization and to Hong Kong. And I think this is the one thing that came out from our research as well, is really people who can make a difference and not really, I would say, potential candidates think about how I can add value rather than what can I bring to your organization. So it's the value rather than what they can bring. And adaptability is really important. and the ability to share examples where candidates have demonstrated that adaptability, I think is key when you're talking about new roles with a potentially new employer. And the ability to work across different cultures. This is obviously very important. We're a melting pot in Hong Kong and Asia Pacific. So this cultural adaptability is important. And I would really say that many people who come to Hong Kong demonstrate another attribute, and that is curiosity. It is curiosity and a willingness to continue to learn and grow, which will be attributes that people who do well in Hong Kong will need to demonstrate. So, and carve out a successful career, basically.
I see. Thank you. Yi-Xin,
Maybe
your view?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I'll just chip in here. Probably this question, I probably would have a bit more insights because I didn't start off with environmental science or environmental management degree. I started off in the accounting field. So I'm an accountant. I studied accounting, but it's why I moved it into this area. It's because it's growing important. Very important. At the same time, there's convergence between the accounting standards and the relevant standards with ESG itself. So that's why I moved into this field. But at the same, so there is no requirement to actually enter, have an environmental science or environmental management degree. Like what Mark said, how I entered. Maybe for his career, I would say maybe Mark can dispute this. I think it's a series of fortunate incidents whereby he landed role after role. For me, I think it's also a series of changes within my own career path, whereby I landed into focusing on ESG and sustainability. So maybe I can talk a bit more about my team as well. A lot of, a big majority, I would say 50% of the graduates come in with environmental science, environmental management background. But I do have people studying social science, geography, chemistry. So I truly believe that having a degree is just a starting point. You do have to have the passion. Yes, it's going to be a lifelong learning process. I'm still learning every day from colleagues, from stakeholders, from clients, from professionals such as Mark. So it's more important that you have this hunger to keep learning.
Yi-Xin, I'm going to have to respond to you slightly there. So it wasn't just purely by luck. I mean, the fact is that you don't get a PhD by luck. It took me, 6 years of hard work and a slog and living overseas to do that. The other thing is that actually, because I was living in the UK, it took me a further 6 years to find a job in Hong Kong. So I spent every holiday I had and every opportunity to speak at conferences and sit at conferences and get my name known in a market that was very, very tight at the time. It was very different to what it was now. So it's a combination of both. But I think, one of the things that I think that demonstrates, frankly, is persistence and resilience, because people in this field do need to be quite resilient, because, despite all of the growth of the ESG sector, despite the fact that companies and others are really looking now to embrace this, it's still difficult to create change. You have to be able to back yourself. You have to be able to have strong principles, strong purpose to create impact and really believe in yourself and work with others. Because, as we all know, sometimes when you're trying to get companies to make big strategic decisions, they're not just going to change overnight. It takes time. So having that kind of ability, I think, again, is something that can start at quite a young age. It doesn't have to be something that, even in you don't have to be a CSO to be doing that. I've worked with people in my teams who've been at quite a junior level, but they've been change agents. They've been disruptors. They've had that ability to make others think differently. And I think that's really important. Sorry, I just wanted to interject.
No, that's fine. Actually, I mean, I got a question from probably a young audience, and he is asking that, I mean, for most of the jobs that he have come across, they are always looking for people with experience. Now, but for a young graduate or intern and want to get into the ESG field with no experience at all, I mean, what would you advise? I mean, how can he get into the industry?
I'm happy to have a stab at taking that. Look, you know, I empathize. We've all been there. You know, I remember what it was like when I first left university. You know, I was looking for my first job. Somebody has to believe in you. Somebody has to give you that all-important first break. But I think, you know, you can demonstrate that by looking for opportunities. And I would say, for example, you know, there are opportunities in large corporates, certainly, but there are also opportunities to work in civil society organizations, NGOs, for example, that are really good proving grounds where you'll get a lot of exposure and a lot of experience. The same applies to consulting firms as well, professional services. You know, you'll get that exposure to different clients, to different people, to different projects. And that can be done at a relatively fairly junior level. So, you know, be persistent, be strategic in who you're speaking to, and think about who you want to work for. Not about just who wants you, but think about what's going to work for you as well. So, you know, stick at it because it's really worth it.
Thank you, Mark. Yi-Sing, you mentioned that, I mean, EY have some training programs for young people. I mean, would it help this young candidate?
I think professional firms internship is definitely the way to go. But at the same time, the other thing I would want to mention that given that the amount of awareness going on within the corporates itself, corporates are no longer just delegating this responsibility to the corporate development or investor relations department or even the finance department to come up with sustainability information. We are seeing more and more corporates actually setting up a sustainability function within the organization itself. Naturally, I think a lot more positions will be filled up. Yes, they would need more senior people at the same time. They would need some junior staff to actually help with these senior positions because, like Mark said, there's so much to do. There's a lot of change management. There's a lot of communication to be done from top to bottom across the value chain itself. So there's actually a lot of nitty-gritty groundwork to be done. So keep a lookout for all these positions. I'm sure that these will open up sooner or later.
I see. Okay. Caroline, what would be your advice on that?
I think reflecting on what Mark was saying, tenacity and resilience, and looking for who you would like to work for and not just who is looking for someone to work for them, and doing your research and actually presenting yourself in a way that for what you've done, maybe while you're at university, if you're a fresh graduate, what have you become involved in, where your interests lie, what have your internships have been. But I think, again, and this is, if you're in finance, you can be looking at supporting your department in tracking the carbon footprint of the organization. And this is just, I was talking to someone the other day, and this is something that they stipulate in their next role. They want to be able to help the organization. They were CFO. They want to be able to help their organization track the carbon footprint of the business. And so there's ways that you can maybe add value if you think about it, even if you're middle-level management, depending on what the initiatives are for your organization. And how can you volunteer? How can you help? And as we talked about, change is very important, and wanting to drive and support that. And if you have that type of adaptability, then demonstrate that to your boss, to your seniors, and that helps.
Okay, thank you. So I must thank all of you that, I mean, this is a very good discussion that we have today. And I think to summarize that, there's a lot of going on, there are a lot of things going on in the ESG field. And in Hong Kong and probably the the rest of Asia, there are a lot of opportunities in the ESG field. And so wherever you are, if you're interested to enter into this field and to come to Hong Kong, please make sure you submit your resume to our speakers here, and also to get in touch with us at Invest Hong Kong. And certainly we will try to help. And so again, thank you very much for our speaker today. For the audience, shall I remind you that we have a survey at the end of this webinar. Please scan the QR code and complete the survey. That will help us to improve our service to all of you. So thank you very much. Again, thank you to all the speakers. Sign off from Herman here. Thank you.